Welcome to another episode of the Metal Roundup. And today we have a very special guest in the form of one George Lever, who is a well-known producer, mixer, genius. George, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome, sir.
It's an honor to have you here.
Yes. It's good to have you, sir. Welcome.
What happens now?
Oh, folks, wait till you hear this man's voice. It's better than Burbs. I didn't think it was possible. But it's a wonderful voice. So this is a bit of an interesting time. For those that don't know, and actually I'm asking this partly for myself, I would know you as a producer, but also you being like a mixing engineer. What different hats do you wear in the musical production space? Does it depend on the person you're working with? How would you introduce yourself and your role in the music recording space?
So I would say now the thing that I do the most of is solving problems for people. And that kind of exists in multiple different avenues. So that can be songs, like writing or producing them, or it can be mixing or all sorts. I kind of don't do the same thing every single day for each person that I talk to. It's just bits and bobs, really.
I love that. So big. I solve problems. Okay. So you're all right. I can't get in my house. George Lever, you can help.
Have you got a big enough rock?
Have you found that role has changed over the last couple of years, George? Like, have you found that, like you're saying, you're problem solving at the moment, but have you found that your actual role and what you're doing at the moment over the last, let's say, 5 years has drastically changed, or do you feel like you're doing roughly the same thing, I guess, in terms of your actual role? Obviously, there's different projects involved, but...
I think I probably know a bit better what I'm good at now.
Right.
Like, I think when, like pre-Rona, I was still in a position where I was like, I like doing all these things. These things I like doing, but I don't really specifically know what my forte is, or why I would tell someone that I'm a good fit for them, or why I'm not a good fit for them. I think where I find myself now is I have confidence in knowing what I can affect and what I can't affect.
Right. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to me that less is really known about the producery side of things or engineering side of things, because a different producer, for example, on a band's record can create quite a different sound. So that's an important part. It's almost like an additional band member in some kind of cases when it comes to the sonic differences there. But I suppose as a producer, you might not even be necessarily aware of what that jigsaw piece is that you are, because it probably is different for each band, right? You sort of will respond to what their intentions are, what their sonic landscape they're playing with. And then I suppose it would take a few records for you to identify, there's a bit of a thread here. Maybe that's a strength that I have. Is that kind of how you've discovered that?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way of putting it. It's modern bands or bands that exist now are just not how they were when I started. So I started when I was 19, 20. And when I started, I was needed for every step. Like, how do you change strings on your guitar? Every step. Now we're in a position where most people can't start a band unless they know how to use an interface. And your interface is now the practice room, and you don't tend to go into the practice room unless you've got a demo, which is the complete opposite of how it was. It was, you'd have to hire someone to record your demo, like, and just understand if you've even got a song. And so we over a couple of very short decades have bridged a gap. Most musicians are a lot more technically efficient, but also as a result of that, their proficiency in songwriting and knowing how to write things has improved drastically. But now they're also beginning to think about things that go beyond the limitations that they had before. So, 10, 15 years ago, a good guitar tone was a lifetime achievement, and now it's a download. Yeah. So we are now focusing on things that it's not, can I sound good? It's like, sounding good is an inevitability if you put enough time in. It's just, is the song good? Is the thing that you can't kind of turn into a digital asset now.
Yes, which is a double-edged sword, because what that allows people to do, and we felt this in the metalcore space. Obviously, we cover a lot of that music with our reaction channels, but the low bar of quality is now so high because we can download, great sounding guitars and drum samples and knit that together. And either they end up then going, oh, sounds great, well, let's just ship it. It's like, okay, but then it's not necessarily the most interesting of songs. The creativity, now you can, on the better side, have more time to focus on the songwriting and creating something interesting and experiment beyond the basic sounds that everyone can have access to. And I guess that's where the fun and the gold can be, if those folks out there kind of discover that. But I think some bands take a while to do that. And what it ends up happening, I think, is bands that would ordinarily not make it to a lot of ears because they don't get enough gigs because they're not quite interesting enough yet, can sooner, via TikTok or Instagram, whatever it is, find a large audience before they're ready to really create interesting music, perhaps. Or is that something that resonates on your side of things when you're hearing a bunch of music out there with this level of low bar quality?
Yeah, I'm actually finding what's happening is one step beyond that, where songs aren't being written now, just moments are being written. So the access to audience is 30 seconds long. It's not multiples of minutes. It's now a case of, if you can get 20 to 30 seconds to send on TikTok, you then figure out the rest of the song afterwards. And there is a lot of that, maybe more than most people are aware of, where actually songs don't exist, that only the things that are on TikTok exist. And then these bands get an awful lot of hype. They may have not even played a show yet, and they got an awful lot of followers, so labels think they're great. And then it comes to releasing a song, and people don't understand what the song is because they're waiting for the part that they're familiar with on TikTok. So it's an interesting... So like, they're familiar with the advertising, but not the context the advertising is from. It's like the trailer is better than the film.
Right. Yeah. And I think I've heard of a couple of artists that have come a cropper because of this. So people get you can present a view online that you're massive and really successful, and a bunch of followers. And then I can't remember what they're called now. It's called Cretin or something. I'm going to forget the name. Sub artist name. And they booked a whole tour and no one came because they didn't have any kind of live music history, and no one knew if it'd be good or not. It's just like, oof, that is difficult. I think of when something that Dave Grohl said is, what you really want is to be shit. Start a band and be shit for years and just play and be shit forever, and then get good and cut your teeth, and then you can play anywhere.
Yeah, but that opportunity doesn't exist anymore. So his advice is good for when it was good.
Yeah,
when that opportunity doesn't exist anymore. We don't even have local venues, so I wouldn't even know where to begin to apply that. So that the advice has got to be somewhere in the middle now.
Yeah, good point. That is a sad thought.
Yeah, Sorry, George, go ahead.
That's all right, mate. I've chatted loads. You go.
No, I was just going to say that whole phenomenon is very prominent, I think, because myself and Steve and Burb are so locked into, I guess, the pulse of what's going on in modern metalcore, deathcore, whatever. Deathcore is, for me anyway, I don't know if Steve has the same opinion, but it seems to be the repeat offender of this kind of, I call it moment core, where it's like you said, the clip on TikTok is what kind of gets everyone interested because it does sound cool, but then you do notice these trends of bands where it's just, the song is built around the moment as opposed to like the actual, I guess the artistry around the song itself.
Yeah, it happens. But every advertising avenue gets exploited at some point or another, and then it'll just work its way out. There was a point in time where we didn't understand how to utilize streaming. There was a point in time where we didn't know how to utilize YouTube. It's when new avenues are invented, it just takes a little while. And then, like, when stereo music was first invented, like after it being mono for such a long time, people were panning kicks to the left and to the right. Like, they didn't know what to do with it. So
sounds like
everything works its way out in the end.
Yeah, actually, there's an artist called Delamitri. I think all of the guitars are one pan. They're on one side of the headphones, like all of them. Like, what the fuck? I think the vocals were center, and there were some bands where I think the drums are all in one headphone and not the other. It's like, wow, they're really experimenting, which is a great thing, but you learn through failure.
Yeah. It's what happens with every new avenue. Everyone goes like, all right, there's no rule book. What can we do here?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Eventually, we'll find the good stuff. I was curious. I remember chatting a bit to Lindsay Ward about this from Exploring Birdsong, but do you have a favorite challenge? Either be it get the best sound you can, recording you can out of an acoustic instrument, which is its own challenge, or is it finding the right synth tone that you're trying to find, which is also this completely different puzzle that almost has infinite variations? Do you have a kind of interest or a challenge you enjoy from either of those kind of endeavors?
So I really do enjoy recording drums. Like that's just that for me is one of the most enjoyable parts of the process each time, especially when working with someone that's incredible at their instrument. There is nothing quite like that experience for me. I don't know what it
Wow.
is. It's just really, really love drums. And there's nothing wrong with all the other instruments. It's just that because all the other instruments, I'll explain actually before I move on. Drums determine so much of the sonic landscape that you're allowed access to when you are mixing. The kick typically tells you how far down you're going to go, and then the cymbals tell you how far up you're going to go. And you don't tend to defeat that rule book within metal. You'll typically find that the cymbals are the brightest thing and the kick is the deepest thing.
Huh.
And so when you are working within that, and then the drummer is determining the energy. So they are determining what's your complete potential energy for explaining the narrative of the song. So how does this section feel? What is the intent? What is happening? And what's the contrast between sections? Typically, it's the drummer that is dictating that if they're good at what they do. If they're awful, it can be a terrible experience because it will all be limp fish. Like it will just be awful and no one will enjoy themselves and it turns into program drums in the end. But if everything goes well, the drummer dictates a lot, an awful lot more than is really known. Because you know when a drummer is not powerful, you know when a drummer is not giving it something, and you know when it's not connecting. It's typically down to them.
That's fascinating. I had thought, I mean, I've done lots of recordings in the past myself. I thought the drums were typically done first because they form essentially the musical metronome after they've done some metronome recordings, and that's why you would do that first. I hadn't considered that perhaps it has an important role to set about the soundscape that you can play with. That is fascinating.
Yeah, but also I tend to do drums last.
Oh, what? Okay. Well, there that flips that. But even though that, I guess I would have thought if you needed, maybe you don't need to understand the highs and lows, the potential to begin with, but perhaps that is what you need in place before you start mixing. Is that essentially what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, like there's this, but also like it's very easy to get guitars and bass and vocals to a somewhat assimilated, finished place. But then that really starts to change when an organic thing is in there. We don't tend to do live amps anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't do live cabs. You don't tend to do it with bass anymore. You can, but you need space and volume to do it, so it's not practical. So all this stuff gets done in a more controlled environment, and then you go somewhere where you can make a lot of noise, and that's when drums happens. And that's when you get to feel whether you made all the right choices. If it's the other way around, then it's really difficult to write new drum parts after you've done the drums.
Gosh, so there's some risk, I guess, until to find out. Oh, do we have what we think we have once we have the drums, and then it's like, all right, how much do we have to do in post?
What it honestly, it's a solution to a problem. The problem is people don't practice, and so and sometimes they come into the studio not knowing what their music is, and then it gets written on the day, and then the drums happen last. It's not like a genius by design thing. It's a practical, how the fuck do I make this work type situation, and then how do I make it work to my benefit?
Right.
How hands-on do you get? Like you mentioned, where sometimes on the day it's like we're writing the song. Do you involve yourself, or is it a case of if the band gives you that access, or is it discussed in advance that you're going to be a part of the writing process?
I think people are pretty good with communicating these days. I don't accidentally end up writing a song for someone.
Fair.
But also it's pretty evident in the room when you've got a group of people and you're sat there and you're going, this isn't the thing, is it? What's the thing? And if whoever has the idea and it's worth sharing. So it's an as and when thing. I don't typically love being the first person to write stuff because it's not that I dislike writing music. I love it. But normally I love writing music that's for me or for people that I want it to be for. So it's by design, intentional. I don't want to accidentally write someone a song that I know is kind of like my song, and then they play it and then they have to find some way of relating to it afterwards, which is it's a bit weird. Like, we don't really like each other's children. Like, we all know, like, oh, your kid's great. It looks, oh, what a beautiful baby. It's fucking ugly. Like,
I wouldn't take it home, but I'm glad you have him.
Right. And so it's just like, you can't, it's really difficult to like, be like, oh, good. Thanks so much for this. Brilliant. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. And so I try to avoid putting myself in that situation as much as possible, not because I don't want to do it. It's because I know what it's like to not align with something you didn't make. So I try to give as much opportunity as I can for the people that I'm working with to come up with their own solutions based upon an environment that I can provide or ideas that I can provide. And it's really me going, I'll do it. I have the idea, is like last gasp. I will do it. But this is the idea. Does this align with what you want to achieve for this song? Blah, blah, blah. I will show you it. Feel free to rewrite it, type stuff.
Right.
Okay. And I'm assuming there's maybe friction at that point. I'm assuming with situations like that, where maybe if you do get to a last resort situation where you have an idea, there might be some back and forth there, I guess. Has there ever been a situation, I guess, where it kind of just falls apart at that point and you realize that it's not going to happen? Or
if there is friction, it's as a result of me not being able to communicate well.
right.
Like, the only time friction exists is because someone either misunderstands you or you misunderstand them, and you start thinking you're having the same conversation, but you're walking down two completely different avenues with the same view. So
Okay.
there's no real need for friction to exist, typically. If it does, it's not a problem, because that's like, we're people, we get annoyed,
Sure.
we get pissed off, all emotions are viable and allowed, but it's just how adult do you want to be about getting to the conclusion and resolving it afterwards? Sure. I don't care if someone gets pissed off. I care about how they resolve it at the end.
Right. Okay. And have you found over the years, like with your experience, have you had to, like, I guess, change your vocabulary in a way when you're speaking to someone who's maybe not as technically proficient? Like, have you got any tricks that you've learned over the years where I'm saying something to someone, it's very technical, they don't know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get that across to someone?
Yeah, but it happens every session. And the easiest thing is for me to learn their vocabulary rather than them learn mine. So I just have to do as much as I can in order to understand what words are you using to describe something that I would do different. Like, I had someone explain aggression to me in a completely different way, or grit in a completely different way to me a week ago, and I was there going like, that's not what I would call grit, but okay. And he saw grit as an emotion, not as a distortion type.
Okay.
And I'm there going like, okay, so what you hear as grit is what I hear as gurn.
So fun, man. The beauty of music, because it's this perfect or imperfect balance between a technical discipline, but also an artistic expression as well. And where you're trying to capture something in a recording, it is navigating that. What I was curious about, you did the album Loathes, I Let It In, and It Took Everything, right? You worked on that one.
Yeah.
That one has, man, that thing blew my brain. It was such an artistically focused, disjointed, but intentional journey of a thing. It was hard for me to follow along with kind of the peaks and troughs of that. Do you, in the role that you play, feel like you need to, as closely as possible, understand their artistic interpretation of what they're trying to do? Or are you able to, without completely aligning with that side of things, help be a catalyst for enabling that in some way?
So I think Loathe is a really good example, because the team that they've got is, when it comes to writing songs, are one of the most interesting like writing democracies that I've seen. like it takes them a little bit to agree on something, but when they do, it is the right thing. And I had so before we ended up mixing that record, I was part of one of their pre-production sessions a year before I ended up mixing it. And we demoed New Faces in the Dark, Sad Cartoon, and something else in a week. And seeing that process was a bit of a cheat, really, because had I not seen that pre-production session or had a week with them to talk or understand what they were trying to achieve on an individual level and what their individual tastes were or what they selfishly maybe wanted for their career later down the line. Nothing bad. It's just like we all have ambitions and everyone has their different ambitions. I would probably not have understood how to mix that record in the same way. So because I've been in that room with Sean, the drummer, who's amazing, by the way, even then when he was going through everything, there were points in time when he was trying to explain the tuning that he wanted to have. I didn't understand at first because my world was like super pristine, super clean, like high tuned stuff for a very long time. And then he's there going like, I want tea towels, vintage splatty stuff. And I'm there going like, I've never done that. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to have to figure out how this works with you. And so that was like an adventure in itself. Had that conversation not happened, I would have ended up mixing the drums completely wrong. And so, yeah, I can see why when you are like on the other side of the glass, hearing that record for the first time, being like, what? Like, I'm jealous that I didn't get to have that experience. Like, that's an amazing experience. That record, and I say this about every record that people go like, oh, you did really good on that record. I like those records, not because I did them, but because I'd listened to them even if I hadn't done them. That's when I know it's good.
Yeah.
Right?
That's going to be a cool position to be in.
It's cool, but there's also part of me that goes, maybe I made it worse. You know? Like,
Sure,
what?
you could never
you
know.
know what I mean?
But also, your experience, like I have a bit of a thing where I listen to music because of the various instruments that I play and the things I've done in the past. I hear all of the pieces at once. I hear the drum parts, I hear the bass lines, I hear the synths, and etc. You're even more so because if you're listening to like Loathe, you'd be aware of every single fucking stem that goes into that thing, and you'd be like, oh yeah, there's that tiny little whistle there that almost maybe no one's going to hear, but I know it's there. Like, are you ever able to, for things you've worked on, kind of switch off that kind of that part of your brain and just enjoy it as a listen through?
So I don't tend to listen to the things that I've finished. So once it's done, I don't listen to it again. So I just remember the experience that I had on my own in the room mixing.
Interesting. Why is that?
Do you know the joke about the gynecologist? He gets
Not
home to his
off
wife.
the top of my head.
He gets home to his wife and he's like, he's had a long day and he goes, if I see one more.
You crashed, bro. Oh no, he's back.
You missed the. You must. You can watch it on repeat. It's fine. But that's kind of like right. The music's great. The records are great fun. I'm very happy that they exist. Like genuinely, really, really happy of the things that I've gotten to do. I just don't tend. It's kind of like what I feel like it's watching yourself have sex.
I kind of know what you mean. Insofar as most people, if they hear a recording of their voice, if they're not used to doing things like YouTube or podcasts, people hate the sound of their own voice. They're not used to it. It's a whole different experience. So perhaps it's an odd experience to like listen back to something that you've crafted in all of the details and be like, you'd hear your own touches throughout the whole thing. Be like, all right, I don't know how I can objectively in a different way enjoy that without thinking yourself, perhaps. Do you go like, oh, if I'd only added just a touch more room reverb on that one?
No,
does that kind
fortunately
of
not.
Okay.
No, I tend to look at things and I go, like, I tend to listen to things and go, okay, probably there's too much going on here. That's normally the thing that I have in the back of my mind, which is like, I'm aware of how many things are in there. And I'm like, I know that it's creating the experience that I'm enjoying, but it's a shame that I can't just listen to one of these sounds like on its own instead, because sometimes those sounds can they could be a song on their own. Some of these things that exist in combination, and that is also part of like the modern writing style at this moment in time, is that there's an awful lot of good sounds and they're all playing at the same time, and it makes one really bad sound.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
It's just like, I really like good food, but I don't want to eat all my favorite foods at the same time.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true.
It could be a blender and it could be a pizza and some ice cream.
No, it's just like, I was just like, in my head, I was like going like, I could have like pizza here, cheesecake there. Like,
I think in your example, if you
I changed my mind.
if you put it all into like a sandwich at once, it might be
Yeah.
fucking
No,
much.
actually, maybe I need more sounds. And the problem is that I've not found the right amount of sounds to give me the pizza cheesecake combo.
Wow. That is an analogy
There we go.
and a half.
Funnily enough, that analogy is a lot to digest.
Hey. Cheers to that one.
Sorry, that was weak. Listen, we came.
How's my audio? Is my audio like really crap?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's terrible.
no, you sound perfect.
Well, I just want to
You're-
know, because we're talking about Loathe and all this. I want to know like what project like actually put you outside your comfort zone, and what you take away from it.
What project put me outside my comfort zone? Probably Loathe.
When they're like, "Can I put towels on these drums?" You're like, "This is not my comfort zone."
No, Towels was fine. It's just, the thing is that when I was younger, I was really stubborn. Really, really stubborn. I thought I knew how things worked. I think we all go through a stage of this at some point or another. And I was in that stage when I met them and I was doing this record. And it's a real shame because like I know what I was like during those couple of years or that period of time. And for all the people that I met during that period of time, I'm there going like, oh, fuck, if only you could know that I'm not a bellend now. And that it was a challenge not because of them, but because of me. And so their record sounds great, but it's not because I did my job. I did my job, cool. But they also did their part. They stuck their course with what they were wanting and what their vision was, and we got there. Not that the first mix was super far away from it. It's just that there were points where in that process, I'll put my hands up and I'll say like, why are we even doing this? Like, why am I adjusting that? What's the point in that? And they had an idea. And so I took away a lot from that process, that I'm not always going to know best. There are going to be points in time where I'm going to have the things that I know or my experience challenged, and the result is going to be something that I wouldn't have gotten to without that having happened. So I have to find the patience to be open to being wrong more often than I'm comfortable with when that is going to happen. But it also means that I need to know as and when that's going to be applicable, because there are going to be other people that are more stubborn than me that have no experience and have no idea what they're trying to do. So it's really hard to know when that's being applied.
Was there a particular moment in time that sticks out where you, I don't know if it's like an ego death thing that you're kind of discussing or you're kind of alluding to, but like, was there a moment in time that really made you think that, okay, I need to change the way I'm being?
There probably was, but I probably wouldn't be able to point my finger at it. It's just quite a lot of change happened within my own personal life over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's probably like circumstantial as a result of that. I had to experience a load of stuff that I didn't really want to experience, and I did, and now I'm here, and this is the way that I turn up now. But as a result, I get to look at the past and go, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a powerful, yeah, for sure. It's a powerful reflection, but also in the moments there, everyone else in the same room could have the same moments. Like anyone who's creative, like there's a drummer going, listen, I got this idea for something, and they hear it a certain way in their head, and then they execute it, and they look at it and go like, okay, that didn't work. Like that can happen to anyone who's trying to try something new or do anything creative. Like I remember I was playing some drum beat in a hip hop band that I was in. I was like, yeah, this absolutely fucks. This is so good. And then there's something I only did live. And then I heard a live recording back. And I was like, no, I'm really crowding out that moment with the kick drum. I should have no kick drum. I just have the open hi-hat. It'd be so much better. But like, I didn't know that because in my head it sounded different to the actual like objective experience. Yeah. That's tricky. You can only learn that stuff though by experimenting and going, oh, okay, I've learned something. It's
Yeah. And, it's an important thing to learn. I think the thing that that I've observed since then that restricts people from believing that they're allowed to go through that process is they believe that constantly that they're running out of time and they're up against it. Like, I'll put it to you this way. I meet more musicians now that believe they are too old to make it than not. And they are 25, 24, 26. They're the age that I was when I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm still an idiot.
this is like I'm 30. I'll be 39 this year. I'm still like I can still make it. Fuck you. But probably I don't know. It'll be challenging.
And every single time I've gone to them and I've said, how old was Jared Leto when he released his first album? And they go, I don't know, 21, 22. I was like, going.
Yeah.
He was 31 when he released Capricorn.
Wow. But he looked 22, right?
He's a vampire, but that's not about it. But he's in his 50s now. This guy.
Christ! That is not how I look when I'm in my 50s. I mean, I don't look that now.
You just take out a loan, go to Turkey.
Yeah.
Full head transplant. Yeah, I'll be all over it.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But the point is that unlike Morgan Freeman didn't start acting until he was 38.
Yeah,
Like there's so many examples of people that spent their years learning to be them, to then apply it, that did just fine. But I meet more musicians that are at an age where they shouldn't worry about things, causing worry that shouldn't be worried about, and it gets in the way. So this then feeds into the recording process of, we don't have time to get this wrong. We can only get this right. And it's your responsibility, George, to make sure that happens.
Oh, fuck. Well, that's a lot of pressure. Because, I mean, yeah, but when you said there's not enough time, my first thought was because studio time is expensive. They're like, we're trying to just do this in 2 weeks.
There's that too. But like trying something takes maybe half an hour. But again, in the grand scheme of things of like, lifetime, this is you'll see more of it. You'll see more people panicking if they get a bit of traction online, panicking to like throw themselves at the wall to be like, notice me. I can do this. Sign me. I can make it. It's mad. Absolutely mad.
Yeah. But I think what I'd hope people will eventually learn to do, which I'm sure some are, is if you worry less. I mean, obviously, if you can, try and understand how TikTok works and YouTube and Instagram, or try and use those tools to your benefit. But at the same time, focus more on writing something that is great. That anytime you play to someone, they go, "Oh, this is I'm really enjoying this." For the most part, that's where things will do well. I mean, in the example of Sleep Token, they give so little. Like they're not a band that has gone on TikTok to make reels or Instagram or whatever it is. Like they're not even going, here's who we are. Here's our backstory. It's like they've removed so much away from the offering that they have other than the music itself. And the music itself is good enough that they did well. I mean, sure, people say, well, the whole baddie movement on TikTok and exploded, Take Me Back to Eden. Sure. But it was already on its way. Like if the music is interesting and good enough, it's just time. And actually, there's no rush. The time will happen. Is that kind of what you'd echo with as well?
I'm replaying it in my head 1 second.
Sorry, I said a lot.
No, it's good. You said good things.
It's somewhat linked to what I was saying before, but I hope people focus more on writing songs that are compelling than, great, I've laid down some drum tracks, I've programmed them in, we got a beefy guitar line, we got a breakdown, people love breakdowns. Like seal that and launch it. Like, can we do more?
Yeah, but I think it's difficult because, like, when we're young, we want to be noticed, regardless as to what we say. Like, dudes want to be seen by girls or other dudes, or not at all, and vice versa. And when we start getting that attention, we feel better about ourselves because it validates that we exist. Right, and that we have an effect on the world around us, because up until that point, we have no evidence that we affect anything. And then as we get older, at least for me, I've gone, fuck my life, please leave me alone. like, like, and I can only imagine that it's just going to get worse until I like just don't exist anymore. And the thing when it comes into music is that if we get noticed and we create something that means something to us, and then it gets picked up and people like it, we've had an effect. So then we kind of want to experience that thing more. It's hard to know the effect that a good song can have, because when something's good, people don't tend to talk as much as when something is like viral, like for funny or memes or whatever, or if it's awful. If it's awful, people talk way more. And so there's not an awful lot of encouragement to make something that has merit or is soulful or validating for ourselves first, because the gratification is so delayed, we may never see it. There's an alternate universe here where the baddie TikTok thing didn't happen for Sleep Token, and they, it just didn't work out that way, and no one knows that good music existed for them. Like, there's so much balance to be had. So yes, I do agree that like persevering to learn how to make a good song for yourself is important, but being able to know the value of being able to do that is the reason to persevere with it in the first place. To knowing that you can affect someone's mood within just a chord change is wild.
Yeah, some cool shit.
And getting addicted to that is a really healthy thing. Becoming an expert at it is almost impossible. It takes a long time to do, but it's way better than like just some of the cheap thrills. It's a grind to understand, and not everyone wants to grind. And I'm also not in support of grind culture, because I think that's bollocks. Like I if I could work as little as possible, I would do it. Like who wants to do that? That's boring. I just want to do cool stuff. Grinding is bad. It's just if you can figure out how to do the things that benefit you and they're artistically beneficial, then that's wicked. And if you can learn how to affect someone's mood or their life or their day, also wicked, but also not important, And I think that's why things such as Sleep Token took such a big hold. I mean, Loathe also did it, and it took such a big hold because people got used to not knowing really what the music they were listening to was about. For a long time, metalcore was just about like, I'm angry. The end.
I'm seeing ghosts and I'm caught in the undertow. Repeat.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's okay. Like being angry, cool. Like I used to listen to deathcore when I was younger too, like Oceano and all that sort of stuff, and death metal, like with Black Dahlia and Nile and all this sort of thing. So I've seen every angle of metal. It's just angry. And to be shown that you're allowed to have something else for once in a while is the thing that makes people go, oh, we're allowed that too. That's fun. That's cool. And then that's why it happens. So if people that make music, if you can show people something that they've not heard before, that's what will be the thing that sends it for you.
Yeah. And even better if that thing you're showing is something that is authentically of interest to you and of passionate to you and is unique to you, then that's more likely, I think, to resonate with others. I mean, you're saying the angry example, like Killswitch Engage, when I first discovered their lyrics.
Oh, they were just funny.
They were fun. I mean, they have some ripping music, but the lyrics that Jesse Leach was putting together were like hopeful and positive, which was a rare thing in the scene at that time. And it made them interesting. And it was something that authentically came from them. And therefore it did resonate in its own way.
I see. The thing for me was that I joined Killswitch at the Howard Jones era. So that was my first introduction to, we're allowed soulful singing.
Right.
We're allowed something that feels like it resonates in your chest in music. And we're also allowed people like Adam D to have a personality where they take the piss out of each other on stage, and you're going to a gig and you're being involved in their inter-friend relationship banter. Other world. So, and I find that for most people, every time they've ended up finding their new favorite band, it's because they've been shown something they didn't know could exist.
Yeah. I think a lot of that's happened as well with Bill Murray. I mean, there is no template for what he's doing with his music videos and his whole meme culture thing online, with the kind of like country styled rock infused, slightly metalcore influenced stuff. Like that just didn't exist. People go like, oh, I can just do what I want and have my whole thing be about hog cranking, but also write really fucking vulnerable, emotive music. It's a fucking brilliant thing. We need
Yeah.
more of that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm waiting for the metal version of Lonely Island to exist.
Oh my god, that just unlocked
Yeah,
Electric
a
Callboy.
part of my brain.
that was originally that was going to be 12 Foot Ninja, but I don't think it is anymore.
Oh, yeah, they're no
But
longer.
Lonely Island,
Is
fantastic.
that I just had sex band, or am I completely off here?
Yeah, no, it is, but they
Okay.
have
Yeah.
way
I was like-
better songs. They
I
have
don't
way
know
better
them.
songs.
Oh yeah, there's a
You don't
deep
know
dive for you,
Steve?
Steve.
I don't know them.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh my god, you know Tenacious D, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so then
Okay,
you get the
same
idea.
ballpark. All right, great.
That
Yeah.
just
Just
blew
less
my
Pick of
mind.
Destiny, more vulgar songs that they get famous pop stars in to guest on. They've got a song with Michael Bolton about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Sure.
It's amazing.
It's
Masterpiece.
genuinely one of the best examples of fuck it and find out.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's some homework for me.
Yeah,
I'll check
sure.
it out.
Is there certain bands that you work with that just have everything, like in terms of, like, I call it like the sauce, you know, where like we're talking about Loathe and it's like talking about like trying to make your own artistic expression, but actually making it profitable. Is there certain bands that you work with like, oh, these guys got it, they haven't figured it out? And if so, like, how do you even explain what the sauce is?
that's tricky because I don't. You know that saying like, how do you know when you're in the good old days until you're past them type thing, right? So it's like, how do you notice something until you've gone past it? So I'll say most people will have the opportunity of being great. It's just understanding what makes them great is the hard part. And so I'm working with someone at the moment, and the thing that makes her great is her sensibilities for writing harmony stacks. It's not like a metal musician at all. It's more like Ariana Grande. So you're hearing like normal pop style flows, but with ad-lib stack harmonies. We don't get that in metal ever. And she does this so instinctively, she thinks nothing of it. And I'm halfway through the session, I hit stop, and to answer your question, actually, I didn't know how to notice this until I started learning how to give compliments. So, I turn around and I go, "That's the thing that you do that's important." And she like thinks nothing of it, and I go, "Yeah, but that's what makes it important. This for you is normal. For someone else, they have to apply thought to do this. So if they have to think about it, it's not natural to them. And if it's not natural to them, then they're having to learn how to do it. You're not thinking about this. You are just doing. So it's just, it's unfortunately, it's one of those things where some people will just have it as a talent based upon what they've taken on board through, like everyone learns in a different way. They either learn by repetition or by being shown or by reading it or whatever. And based upon what their learning style is will determine how good they are at reapplying that information in practical terms. So we are all listening to music all the time. If we were geniuses, we'd be able to then sit down at a piano and play every song we've ever heard, but I can't. So that's not my learning style, but I can enjoy what I listen to. There is one musician that I've met in my lifetime that can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure they're great. Listen, well, no, by the way, I'm about to go to a topic of conversation we've been dying to chat about as a three. So Metalbird, myself, and Drew Fortune have some. There's a whole album we've not talked about here, which we'll get to in a moment. But before we chat about that, if you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, this is a good time to do so. So Sleep Token have released, and he's like, no. It's just like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll put some links in the description. You've got some like producer bits and pieces. We'll make sure people can find you as well. There's been a new album from Sleep Token called In Arcadia. Now, you produced and worked on the Sundowning and This Place Will Come to Your Tomb albums. So the last two albums, are you able to, from the outside, I know you said you don't really revisit things you worked on before, but have you been able to enjoy those in a different way? Or is that kind of an unusual transition to make from the position of having worked on those records to then hear a band in the future in a different way when they release songs. How do you interact with them sonically now?
Well, it was a really interesting experience because it was the first time that I got to understand what it was that I did. Right, it's the first example of, because I'd done everything from day one with them, all their
the
first
EPs
demos
as well.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Everything, the Hey Ya cover, everything.
Right.
So it was the first time for me to go like, because I never really understood where do I stop and where do they begin. Because we grew up, we were.
You're always
actually
part of the process, so it's
and we were fairly young fairly young in our careers when we all started working together. So being able to have that opportunity from the other side of the glass for the first time, go, oh, interesting. If I was in this album, I would have done this, but they've not done that. So those are the things that I contributed. Cool. And so then from the rest of that, I got to see what their true identity on their own without me looked like.
I see.
Yeah.
That must be a fascinating experience for yourself. But at the same time, there would be someone else involved in the kind of the soundboard side of things, and you wouldn't necessarily know exactly what that puzzle piece is. So you still don't necessarily know exactly what the rest of that puzzle that fits into is, I suppose. But maybe is that part of what's helped you go, maybe these are my strengths. Maybe these are the things that I lean into. That's kind of my identity.
Because there are things that I hear and I go, oh, okay. And then there are things that I hear and I go, yeah, that's definitely them. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's different. It's not something that I've not really gone from that position of developing an idea with someone all the way through to fruition of doing first handful of record label side records with them to then see what happens beyond that. So it's just been, it's hard. It's really such a British thing to be like, yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's a fascinating experience, which is quite a unique one. And yeah, I'd not really considered that before. If you've always been involved in a particular band's recordings, it'd be impossible to know what your piece of that was until you're on the outside. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah. Cool. Have you, I know again, like Steve said, you don't really go back to the music that you've worked on. Is that true as well for Sleep Token, where you don't revisit the albums?
I'll probably listen to Sundowning once every year or so at most if I'm doing a long drive.
Okay.
Because the reason being is because it reminds me of I did my first ever, so I passed my driving test when I was 30, right? Really late in the day. And I did my first ever long drive. We all remember our first long drive, the day I got the masters back for Sundowning. Oh. So doing long drives and that album are like this for me.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of long driving now because of the studio. I'm not always listening to that album, but if it starts raining, then I listen to it.
Okay, interesting. Because that first long drive,
was legit.
Sure.
First ever long drive, and it just decides heavens open, like literally a month's worth of water in one drive, and I'm there going like, I don't know what to do with this. So I distracted myself by listening to that record.
Wow. Yeah. You got a favorite moment in the record from, I guess, just from a music lover standpoint, not even like from your own technical breaking down of certain sections?
Higher.
Great choice.
Yeah. Higher, and then the second verse of Bloodsport.
Interesting. I have to remind myself of the second verse specifically. I don't remember.
Second verse opens with the word somewhere.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a certain delivery there. It's pretty fucking powerful, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay. What about...
How did producing Sleep Token influence like the rest of your career and like outlook on music production?
Sorry, can you say that again? There was like noise cancellation.
Yeah, sorry. How did producing Sleep Token influence the rest of your career and your outlook on music production?
Oh, completely. No one gave a fuck about who I was until that.
Yeah.
So, like, the thing was, so I will always like have a lot of really strong memories about both of all the demos, EPs, and the 2 records. Like, some of the best like moments of my adult life existed in making those records. It's really difficult as an established producer, and I wasn't established, as I'd been working for about 12 years until I did those records, maybe 18 through till, so I was 29, 11 years until I started on Sundowning. And from a label point of view, for Spine Farm, it's a huge risk for them to trust a band. Like, on the contract side of things that they had with Sleep Token, they supported them really, really well. Like, they had a lot of trust in them. So from a label point of view, for them to trust me, and the band vouched for me to do Sundowning in the first place. We were all stood in my kitchen, actually, and the label rep was there saying, so who's mixing this record? And they're going like, it's George. And they went, okay. It's not normal. It's not typical. And I remember everything about that moment going, okay, this will be something. It has to be something, because I may not get this opportunity again. And I don't want to blow it up into this like super romantic thing, because obviously the way that my memory work is going to romanticize this shit for me, because it's my memory. But had I fucked that, I would not have done the second record. Had I fucked that, I would not have done Loathe. So there's like a huge chain of events that cascades out after that one decision it's in my dad's kitchen, because my studio used to be in the back garden of my dad's house, and we all met in this really weird environment to have a very, very important discussion about an album that no one knew existed at that point in time. And it just had a really strong impact on the rest of the way that my career ended up unfolding. So it's hard to be like saying just it's worth explaining why, because there's a lot of like individual things that happened in order for it to come together in the way that it did.
The Metal Roundup are officially on Patreon, and we are launching with 2 tiers for you guys to avail of. Tier 1, the guest list. With the guest list, you get early access to all of the episodes of the Metal Roundup, plus access to our exclusive Discord. But if that is not enough for you, we have a tier 2. Don't worry, we have you covered. The Backstage Pass. With the Backstage Pass, you get access to all of the things that you get access to in tier 1, but of course there's more. Not only do you get early access to all the episodes and access to our Discord, you also get a shout out at the end of all our episodes. Oh, but we want more. Oh, you're getting more, all right? Tier 2, baby. You get everything you get in tier 1, plus the shout out, plus a bonus episode filmed at the end of every single main episode just for you on tier 2. God damn. Oh, there couldn't possibly be more. There's no way. There is. Not only do you get all of these beautiful perks with tier 2, the Backstage Pass, you also get access to an exclusive Discord channel where you can message us directly and give us questions and topics for the bonus episodes. So you guys are essentially an additional member of the podcast. If you like the sound of that, the link for the official The Metal Roundup Patreon page will be in the description, lads. Any support will be much appreciated. We love you. Thank you so much. Now enjoy the episode.
Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of, in life, people can look at things and go like, oh man, how lucky you're in the right place, right time. But everyone has moments of opportunity, but you have to meet those and make the most of the luck. And some degrees you make your own luck. Obviously, as you alluded to there, that album goes well, then you can do another album. And then other bands will come along. So there is going to be some example of good execution that clearly happened. But I suppose in that moment, you probably went, oh, fuck. I think I can do this, but I need to do this. I need to do this well.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling to be very quietly confident that the record will be fine, having not done it yet. But just knowing, very strange.
Yeah. Was there a penny drop moment for you? I know hindsight is going to be, very obvious, but Is there any moments for you that you can recall to where you felt as though there's something massive here? Or was it just day by day, enjoying the process?
Um, I was in that album. I was just selfishly, I was there for me and my friends in that moment in time. Just I wanted so badly for them to have like I. They worked really hard to get there, and by there I mean like not just signed, but just safe. Because, like with any band, there are obstacles that everyone has to overcome in order to get to where they want to be, and it requires sacrifice and hardship. And it felt like as a group we'd earned the right to do that record, and I just wanted it to go well. I wanted it to be a really enjoyable experience. I wanted it to be like, we didn't argue. There was no fights or anything during the recording process. It was just, we're doing this. It's going to sound like this. It's going to feel this way. And that's what we set off to achieve. And it's, we found out as we went along, there's quite a lot that happened that I didn't expect. Nothing bad, but just lots of really fun stuff. So, no, there wasn't a penny drop moment because I was just very focused on being there when it was happening.
What's great, and you've kind of alluded to this earlier in our chat, that I think we can relate to in our world of YouTube is like, it can be very easy, especially in that moment, like this has to be good. You can focus on whatever it is, your own personal metrics for what means this thing is good. Like in our world, we might make a video, maybe it gets a ton of views. Hang on, Burb's device storage is running low. Okay, have a look at that, Burb. We might do something that gets a bunch of views, and then it's like, well, then the next thing must get more views. The next thing must get more. But if you can find something that is a core value of how you establish, was that worth doing? Do I feel like I did a good job of it for me, for us, whoever it is? Then that keeps you sustainable forever. Otherwise, you could, certainly if you go on to work on smaller bands in future, you might be like, oh, my career has gone here now. But actually, if you're finding new puzzles, new experiences, it doesn't have to go down or sideways. It can go up in a whole different way. Are there things, it sounds like you had a bit of a wisdom in the focus you had around Sundowning. Are there things internal to you that those are your metrics of, this is worthwhile, what I'm doing is enjoyable, I'm having impact, irrespective of how big or small the album does or a band does?
Yeah. How do I explain that? So my dad, when I was young, I used to ask him stuff to do with business. Like, how much should I charge for this? How do I value someone recording with me for a day? I'm 18 asking these questions. I've come out of uni. I've not gotten the grades that I wanted. I couldn't keep a job at Sainsbury's. How do I make this work? And so he goes like, I can talk to you about the practicals of this. I can tell you what your time is worth, but then I'm going to ask you a question. And I go, okay. And he goes, so you're worth X, right? And he goes, and I go, okay. He goes, does that make you happy? And what do you mean? He's like, are you happy to do that work for that money? Oh, not been asked that before. He said, are you happy not earning that money, not doing that bullshit job? I went, yeah. He said, okay. And it's just kind of been like that. So I guess, yes, there's an internal metric because Dad imparted, I saw it as some sort of wisdom when really he could have just been just checking that I wasn't screwing myself over and that I was okay. He could have been having that conversation with me because he needed to know that I was okay for his own needs. But through my own lens, I'm looking at that going like, wow, I'm allowed to decide. I'm allowed to choose happiness and be poor. And, and I won't be shamed into being guilty about this or whatever. And if I want to, all this sort of stuff. So when it comes to music and making records with people, there are different camps. There are people that only want to make music because they want to be famous. There are also people within that camp that want to make music because they want to be famous and they want to make money. And there are going to be other people that are, different gradients of that. And then there are some that just want to make music. And they don't know why. Because they are compelled to just make. And not every band is made up of the same type of people. And normally the bands that are most successful are the ones that are made up of one of each type. Because they cover everything. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. And there's nothing wrong with just wanting to create. It's just how you apply that want or that selfish need and where that gets you and what you're prepared to sacrifice in order to find out. And so this internal metric that Dad provided me, whether he knows it or not, is just me there going, am I happy that this music exists?
No.
Beautiful thing.
Has Dad been a guiding light throughout your career, or was it in the earlier stages that you've just kind of taken that beacon and just ran with it?
I mean, he's still involved today. So I'm really awful with like paperwork, contracts, legal stuff, and he is very good at it. And he also likes just being around and being available, even though he will chew me up over it. Like he will just, I think he just needs new ammunition, basically.
Okay.
But he played King Crimson when I was growing up. I had no choice. I was just brought up around prog.
Okay, all right.
It was game over. So it's just like,
you're in.
Yeah, it's just, all I do is work on prog bands, and then everyone thinks they're metalcore.
Yeah, Loathe especially is a weird one, isn't it? It's like, fuck Loathe.
Yeah, exactly. They're all prog.
It's very progressive.
Yeah.
It's all prog. There's probably like someone there going like, you couldn't make pop money out of prog music, and I'm just there going like, haha.
But there wasn't a template for that. Like, I say this regularly, so the listeners of this podcast would be like, would you stop? But like, there is no way of predicting that like what would be a really successful thing to do is like an anonymous 8-minute long progressive series of songs that have like dark twists and super vulnerable lyrics. It's like, okay, that's not going to battle with Ed Sheeran in the charts. Like you would not draw that line from like 2017 or so to where it is now. Like that is the exception that now is becoming more normal, as perhaps people are going to go, oh, there's some really interesting avenues in the progressive music world. But it takes, as in evolution generally, an exception to kind of cut through, and everyone goes, wait, what's that? How'd you do that? How do we do more of that? It's a rare thing.
Yeah. I'm just like, I really like prog, so the more of it that exists, the better.
Yeah. It would be almost criminal to not, I guess, before we jump into the new album from Sleep Token, to not follow the natural progression of, I guess, your experience with the band as well, with going into Tomb. I guess just from your own, point of view, what was I got into Sleep Token around Sundowning when Sundowning had already been released. I heard The Offering for the first time. So what was, I guess, camp like for you? I don't know, I guess, the growth that had come from Sundowning to not Taking Back the Eden to Tomb. What was it like going into Tomb after Sundowning?
Well, I think the thing that's not really known is that the day we started that album is the day we went into lockdown.
Wow.
Christ.
Okay.
So that album, I think for everyone involved, was difficult for different reasons, and also for the same reason, because it was a shit show.
Not the best year.
Not a great time for a label to be like, go do it.
Yeah.
We don't know if live gigs will happen again, so
let's do it again. And so like we're in a studio in the I can talk about where we were. We were at Middle Farm, obviously, and we were there just locked in doing stuff, not really knowing, can we go to a shop? What's happening now? And we were there for like 2 or 3 weeks, just kind of figuring stuff out. And then at the end, it was very like, it's just a very different experience to just be like, bye. See you at some point when this is done, I guess, when lockdowns are over and COVID is not a thing. And we were all there in the studio, just like kind of like joking, being like, I've had enough hearing about this. I want it to be over, thinking that it'll be done in a couple of months. And then it was just like, then we're like 2 years down the line and it's like, wow, the album came out and we had not seen each other for over a year. It was just completely, if you could take the complete inverse experience of Sundowning, it was that.
Wow.
Just completely estranged.
Okay. And I have to ask the same question for Tomb. Have you got again, from a music lover standpoint, have you got a moment or a song in Tomb that you go back to?
Yeah. It seems like all the songs that are on that record, most people that I love, people don't like. So okay. I think Telomeres is fucking great.
Okay.
There's a lot of love for Telomeres.
I think it's great. And a lot of people are like, I think they don't really get it. It's like, for me, that was like if Sleep Token and Loathe had a baby and then there was a solo.
Right. Yeah. The Deftonesy fans are a big fan of Telomeres.
Oh, that's good. I like that. I should probably say that I enjoy, I get these mixed up. Like That is on Tomb, isn't it?
Like That is on, I have the album up here, give me 1 second. Like That is on Tomb, yes. Track number 4.
I also like that one. That one's good. Mine is also on Tomb, right?
Mine is on Tomb, yeah. Track number 3. So
big synth part in that.
Yeah. So I just liked a lot of the... So that have you read the was that actually ever explained? Did anyone ever understand the different fish thing? Did that ever get solved?
Well, if it didn't,
someone mentioned they got the CD, I think it was, or maybe it was a vinyl of Tomb, and they're like, they were going, there's never been lyrics inside the packaging. There's just a bunch of fucking photos of fish. Is what they said. They're like, I didn't get it. There's a bunch of different fish in this thing.
Right, and did anyone ever solve the coordinates?
I don't know.
Oh wow.
Now someone's gonna be like, fucking wait. Give me a minute here.
Sleep Token fish is gonna be a weird search, but help identifying fish. Yeah, there's threads.
There's got to be someone.
There's threads. I'm sure it's been done. And do you have like you mentioned the car ride.
What was he going to say after that?
Sorry, I didn't
fuck it up.
It's not the end of the world, I don't think. That album has a very specific theme for the person that, at least when I was being explained the original journey for that record when we were in the studio, and what the imagery was about and what initially inspired the first few bits and pieces. But if the hints and the clues have not been figured out, I probably shouldn't say.
Fair enough. Someone will go on a little goose chase and then they'll ask me in the comments, and who knows, but interesting.
But if it's been figured out, then
we'll get you.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, sorry, George, I didn't even
That's right, mate.
pop that. You mentioned the story with Sundowning, like driving the car. Have you got like a thing that you like to listen to? This place in back, I keep mixing up Taking Back the Eden. This place. Do you have a little storyline that you like to listen to that album in?
Do I have a storyline for that one? I think because that one was so disjointed and it felt a little anticlimactic because we were also like separated and there was not really a knowing of when the album will be done or when it will come out or what will happen or if there will be shows. Sadly not, but that's not through fault of anyone involved. It's just like environmental. It got to a point where it was just a bit like, cool, the album's done. Thank for that. Now we can just focus on not breathing the spicy air and get to the other side. It's just no. I fully get why you asked that question. It's just unfortunately I don't have a story for you.
Sure. I think, sorry, I don't know if I've picked you up wrong, but I meant more like from your own listening of the album. Like, do you have, like with the car journey with Sundowning, you like to listen to that album when you're driving long distances, but you don't have one of those for, you don't have a kind of like special thing that you do?
No, because the thing is that it's really hard to explain that I went from an experience where Sundowning was 3 months with some of my favorite people in the world.
Sure.
No days off. And then Tomb is not that. And then the level of connection with people that I considered best friends at that point in time, I felt really like robbed by the environment and the world, like robbed of that opportunity to be like just involved in that in the same way. So it's just not the same one. And it's funny because it's kind of the album that everyone seems to have gotten into Sleep Token with rather than Sundowning.
Yeah.
Well, certainly as a stepping stone because of scale as a band grows. I think more people would have Tomb as their first album than Sundowning because of that journey. For me, it was Sundowning. It was pre-Sundowning, actually. Like when I was there just before Jaws came out. But then the same would be true of Taking Back to Eden and then even Arcadia. Whatever your first entry is to a band, that becomes your album. So it's just a scale thing. I don't think it's necessarily a connection.
No, it's like
thing.
my Radiohead album is Hail to the Thief. It's not Kid A.
Mine's In Rainbows.
Is it? That's not a shit one. I really like. I love Hail to the Thief, In Rainbows, and King of Limbs. And I was always like, I'm pretty sure they are like a trilogy of sorts, like because that's that of how they feel to me. But just I have stories about Radiohead albums though. So
I have to admit, I've only heard 2 of their albums, but it's one of those bands. I heard In Rainbows as my first one, and sometimes we just click with a band so much in the first album that you don't want to.
Steve, mate, he's done none. So, Steve, what is your band from being like 14, 15?
See now. I mean, fuck.
It's Britney Spears, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. No, so my teens were largely pop punk and new metal. So
Sum 41.
Yeah, it was more. Where was I in? Blink-182 was a fucking massive. Green Day. The first concert I ever went to was Green Day. That changed my life. I went. They look like they're having fun. How do I do that? It looks great.
Yeah.
Linkin Park.
I mean, I have loads of albums like this. Like how I feel about Radiohead is how I feel about Muse. It's how I feel about Everyone Hates Them. I love Coldplay.
Coldplay, great fucking songwriters.
Great.
Also Muse. Origin of Symmetry. Basically just replaced my brain for a while.
It should all start like making sense. The more bullshit that I reel off, it's like, oh, okay, he likes weird stuff. Like
that's good stuff.
I mean, I got into Muse, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Radiohead.
Californication's an amazing album.
Yeah, but like, what else was there? Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park,
Tool?
Maroon 5. It was all in the same year, all of it. Oh, and Alice Cooper somehow. Okay. Oh, and Def Leppard and Scorpion.
Wow, that is a range.
Yeah, it was weird. My dad used to take me to car boot sales and just buy like 10 CDs and be like,
try this.
There you go.
You had no choice by the sound of it. You were just...
I was screwed. Yeah, no, genuinely.
Came over from day one.
He must have just been like getting like, when you show someone a film that you love and you're like, oh, they're going to love this and they're going to get to experience this bit next and all this sort of stuff.
And they're just never as impressed as you want them to be when you like play them a
it's
song.
It's how I feel when I show someone The Matrix for the first time. I'm like, see? And then they go, what? Never mind.
That's okay. Have your own barometer for joy. Like in a different world, in the movie world.
Yeah, but there is a generation of people where like all the Marvel films are their favorite films. Like it's not the same level. Like there was a point in time where we got Matrix, 12 Monkeys, and all this sort of stuff all in 1 year. Oh, Fight Club, 7, Zodiac. In the space of like 2 years, The Descent, The Departure, is that the one? Yeah. The Departed.
The Departed,
You may just be getting old as well, lads.
It's fine. It's all part of the journey.
No,
it's all part of the journey.
it's just how it works.
Yeah.
Now, Metalburb, unfortunately, is not returning to us. He's had such technical problems, he's gone. So
Yeah.
we'll close this chat soon. But before we get on to all that, there are a couple of things I'd love to chat about. So post the work you did, Take Me Back to Eden is the next album that the band did. Did that feel to you sonically like a stepping stone that you'd expect, or was that kind of an unusual, because I guess you then went, oh, and now I see the piece that I played in their previous work. What was your experience of that? And then also I want to get on to like, what is your experience of the most recent album? What do you think? Because I want to get some thoughts from Drew as well on the recent album, where he's at with that.
Yeah. I think the thing that I noticed the most with Eden was the level of marketing backing that they got improved to a level where you've got a band of that scope, like in terms of ideas and vision and how many complementary media sources that you can have next to each song, because they're not person facing. You have the opportunity to use anything else that you want in the world to explain a song. And I just saw the advertising. It's not advertising. I'm just going to call it supporting materials. I was like, yeah, cool. Like it was more the supporting materials where I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Like a lot of like Dark Souls type influence, computer game influence coming into play, which is applicable, and money being spent on 3D rendering and things like having an atmosphere and a feeling and feeling a bit more complete, because, you know, we didn't get the opportunity with Sundowning, we didn't get the opportunity with Tomb. They tried a conventional music video and it felt a bit weird, and then they went and tried other avenues with Eden, and that seems to be the thing. You know, having these abstract art explanations for things that are complex emotions seems to work for them. So that was the thing that I noticed, and that was actually the thing that I ended up looking forward to seeing more of rather than anything else.
Yeah, I think as I can echo or relate to that a little bit, not on the same connection level as yourself, of course, but like as a fan of the band for a long time, it was great to see what I thought was just great quality music. And when you discover something you love, you're like, I want more people to enjoy this. I want more people to experience this potential. And it was like, oh, they're getting the right vehicle to express themselves perhaps in a more complete way, because everything they seem to do is quite considered. It's just like, oh, it's great. They've got more avenues available to them to add an extra layer of something to this beyond purely the sonic element, which has been very cool to see in that realm. And they've kind of continued on that path with Arcadia in their own way.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
I guess.
Drew, how are you feeling a few days on from Arcadia? You, by the way, I've said this already to you when you're on Twitch, but the greatest reaction video to even In Arcadia is Drew's reaction video. It is the most visceral, enjoyable.
That sounds like that does not sound PG-13.
I enjoyed myself a lot. That is all I'll say. The footage is there, and it will probably never be. Even if I try to do it, it's on the internet now. It's there forever. But no, I enjoyed myself. It was very enjoyable, and I stated that before I got into it. I was like, I'm a massive fan of the band, and I've been, a fan of them for years. And I'm just letting go. I'm allowing music to just take over. Camera's not even here. I mean,
nothing wild happened. He's like egging this as if.
Yeah, no, I'm not like, Jesus, nothing crazy happened. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
It was a primal, like a human, just emotional enjoyment for the sake of enjoying music, and it was a wonderful thing to watch, man.
Yeah,
good.
It was brilliant. Cool. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I feel like that's why I do the channel in the first place, and certain songs bring that out of me where I'm like, this is why I started doing this like 5-6 years ago. There's just some fun moments where I'm like, this is fucking brilliant. I get to share this moment with random people online. But yeah, I guess the natural progression from the Taking Back to Eden conversation is, George, I'm assuming you've heard the new album in full. If I don't know,
I've heard some. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Have you got any initial thoughts on it, or?
Yes.
Good answer. Look at that, like a pro.
Okay.
I don't actually know this, Drew or George. You know, have they had different producers for the last 2 records, or is it
No,
the
it's the
same?
same. It's
Same
both
guy.
Carl.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Carl Bone, right? Am I saying that
Bound.
right? Bound. Yeah.
That's quite interesting because it does have a different sort of sonic play to it, at least in my estimation. It is a different selection of tools for that, and it's quite consistent throughout the record, I think. But it does feel, which is kind of this amazing and intangible, because it's music. I'm like, there is a technicality to this, and yet there's something almost imperceptible about feel that can be injected throughout a series of songs. And I don't know whether that is as simple as, and maybe you'll know this yourself, if it's a difference of like a sound desk apparently can have a lot of influence in what the actual sonic thing happens. He's already going, no. Dave Grohl seems to think it does. Or perhaps it is purely about a next step of artistic experimentation. Maybe that's the thing that cuts through. But like, is that something you've noticed yourself as you listen to, maybe not even just Sleep Token, but as different records, you go like, the whole space of this album sounds different to a different one?
I think, yeah, but it's very little that we get to play with mixing. Really, the only things that we can change when it comes to mixing is volume.
True, but yes, obviously not trying to disagree with George Lever right now, but more like back in the day, it'd be a case large. I think. Of,
No, but so
down,
the reason why these, okay, so the reason why these desks, I'll talk about the old, and before I get to the new, the reason why those things played such a large role back in the day is because those consoles do have a sound, and the way you run them does affect things, and we can just do them more easily in the box now. So things like having access to distortion and soft clipping, and those 2 things alone change so much with regards to perceived dynamics. And the way that we perceive dynamic information determines how we feel about it. That the end. And so if you can fuck with volume in the right way, you can fuck with how someone feels. And these different desks affect volume differently based upon the electronics that are inside them, because they change the tonality of what's being run through them as a result of it. Logic, Pro Tools don't do these naturally. They have no sound, and then the things that you apply as plugins then are your channel strip that determines whether you're fucking with it or not. So yes, back in the day, desks made a difference. These days, I wouldn't be able to point at a record and tell you if it was recorded all in the box or on a desk anymore, because we're at that point now where volume of mixing is so high. Like, we've increased. So one of my favorite records mix wise is Architects. Oh, Adam did it. It's got Doomsday on it.
Symptom. I don't know which ones Adam did, but I can name out Architects.
Doomsday would be the Holy Hell.
Yeah,
Holy Hell.
that's one of their best sounding. That's one of the best sounding Architects records ever, right? And I thought that record was loud, right? I'm gonna talk nerd now. The new Architects album is 5 dB louder, at least. So that's 5 dB of potential volume removed from a mix. We are so up against it now in terms of volume.
Sorry.
No, carry on.
Is part of this because we're getting more clever at filling the frequencies and be like, right, this guitar, we're going to slice this here so that we can fill the bass or frequency with some. Because if you look at the sound wave of modern music, it's almost like a fucking flat line.
Yeah, but you can do that with good or bad sounds. That's just showing that peaks have been shaved off. It's not it doesn't show you really where that's happening. It just shows you volume went up, then volume came down. That's what a waveform shows you. It doesn't really show you where that volume information is.
Right, yeah.
So it just went, it happened, it didn't happen, over and over and over again. And then that's the song. And what's happening is things are just more distorted now. We are being fed more distorted sounds that are designed for worse playback mediums like earpods and stuff like this. Things that sound great are rare and hard to come by. and the loudness wars didn't go away. They just got louder. Like when we were told the loudness wars were happening, it was very quiet by comparison now. We are a lot louder now. We're just very good at getting things loud and not sounding destroyed. But there will come a point where things stop having emotion as a result of it, just because it will just be pinned. So what's happened is we've just gotten better tools to make things loud, and we perceive things that are loud as exciting. So it's kind of like going to a child, here's sugar, and they go, this is brilliant. And then you go, if I give you more sugar, is it more good? And they go, yes, fantastic, I would like more of that. And so like there's kind of like there's an upper limit, and we're getting close to it. However, this is going to bite me in the ass, isn't it? I'm saying we're getting close to it. We'll then go and defeat it in a year or so anyway. So, but that's what's happening. Why was I making my point? I was talking about mixing, architects. What was the thing that happened before that? We were talking about.
We went on such a roller coaster there. I'm trying
I can get there.
See where it started.
Normally, I've had to learn how to do this. Normally, I breadcrumb myself so I can go backwards.
Yeah,
I think initially I was asking about how a different album can sound in terms of the
right.
The
Okay,
space
so
it fills.
in terms of space, or if you were making it up, you're not making up. It's just I think what you're noticing will probably come down to technical application of something. So by comparison, if Sundowning came out now, it'd be seen as bad.
Because the general sonic landscape has gone on in the last few years.
Correct, yes. So I was very lucky with when that got released. The same goes for Loathe.
The example I think of is Science by Incubus. Do you know that album?
Yeah, of course. I love Incubus.
It's a fucking great album. If you introduce anyone to the album now, they'd be like, ugh, because the sound is just like, but it's for me, I hear all the gaps in between because of when it came out. I'm like, oh, this is fucking incredible.
Yeah, and that's just how it works. So yes, there are perceivable differences between mixes. The reason will be because
new
sometimes
choices,
it's intentional, sometimes it's not. I know for me that I just tend to mix what's in front of me. I go, this sound is this thing and it needs more of this and less of that. And it exists there. I'm not really kind of going, it must be this shape or it must be that shape. I'm just kind of like carving away. I'm assuming a lot of the time that what I've been given is intentional. I'm going to guess that a lot of other people do the same thing and they go, well, they meant for it to be like that. So therefore I just need to help it along.
Yeah. I have a super niche nerdy question. When it comes to something as specific as reverb, do you agonize over finding it's just not quite, it doesn't have the right amount of it's tailing to how much do you try and refine a perfect amount of reverb on the back end of like a vocal ending?
Can I be really honest with you?
Yes, please. You're like, I don't give a shit.
So I'm going to tell you, Sundowning was default setting vintage verb Valhalla.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but yeah, great.
So that's just a 4-second reverb plugin. That's it. Default.
Copy and paste on. Yeah.
Just on. Do I like it? Yeah, cool.
Great.
Okay.
So good.
And Tomb was a lot of abusing a plugin called Gold Plate. I'll enunciate it properly, by a company called UBK. And that album is just the sound of that plugin. Wow. And that is a 3.5 second long reverb. And it's just abuse of that. And it's just normally just balancing. What I tend to do is I try to find a sound, and if I've got too much of it, I'll just automate the volume down. I'll print it and I'll cut out what I don't want.
You're
rather than change the plugin setting.
No,
sorry.
But also that's part of it. This is the stuff that I'm always curious about. I can't ask enough of these questions to folks that are making music, but like there's so much that goes into creating music and capturing it on record. And sometimes I love the beauty of that is a simple setting that makes that work, because actually what that does is potentially unlocks, once that's in place, great. Then you can focus more of your attention on, now that that's there, what do we want to do with it? What other instrumentation do I want to tease in and out with this? What other layering can we add? What other kind of synth tones? Like it depends on what you are valuing of trying to deliver the mechanism of that creative space. And it might be that agonizing over reverb, or not using reverb, but actually using a certain kind of delay that sounds like reverb, but is a different thing, is what you want to capture that. But those
Sure.
decision-making things I find fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of stuff. It's such a shame. Sometimes there's loads of, like, I've got loads of things that I've not used since those records. Like, just sat in drawers, like loads of different guitar pedals, just because I was like, well, I've used it now. It's a shame and it's a waste. But they're like loads of just weird, obscure stuff. But the loading up of a reverb plugin and just being like, yeah, is just purely down to think less, do more, figure it out if I got it wrong later.
Yeah.
It is just quite a lot of laziness.
No, but I see that as maximizing, because you could theoretically agonize over every fucking detail of every possible stem, and that might not be the right thing to do to get the end result that's trying to be captured. So it's like, pick your battles.
Yeah, but also there will probably come a day where I do start doing that, and that'll be a bad day.
Or that's a new puzzle to solve, as you said in the introduction.
Or
that is what you do.
I'm not ruling it out. I mean, I've done worse.
I wanted to.
Well, yeah, go on, Drew.
Sorry, George. I just wanted to. I wanted to touch on something that I've been thinking of. I've seen it, and I don't know which video it was of yours, but you talked about how when you're working with different bands, you want to create like separate worlds for each band, because like you don't want other bands, dipping into other bands' worlds. I guess, how would you describe, and there's a lead-on question after this, but how would you describe the worlds of Sleep Token that you've created from like a production and mix standpoint? Like, I guess compared to something like Loathe or Holding Absence, I think you've worked in even Monuments in the past as well. Actually, I believe you mixed this album.
I did that one, yeah.
I was going to say, I was like, as I put this on, I was like, wait a minute. So yeah. Coincidence. I didn't do this
like
as
he didn't do it on purpose.
I swear I didn't do this on purpose. Okay, but anyway, continue, George.
I think it'd be a bit of an ego thing for me to say like I made Sleep Token's world. So I'll just say like the things that I had in my mind of what I wanted for that world to look like, at least on my behalf. So the prog band thing is not wrong. So my favorite prog band is Porcupine Tree.
Brilliant band.
Yeah. And there is a album called, I need to double check this so that I get this right.
Sure.
There is an album that I saw them play in full, in live, before I heard it on record.
Is it the one with Anesthetize on it, or is it one of their older?
Yeah, I saw them play that in full. So it's Fear of a Blank Planet.
Yes.
And there's a really specific, we're going to get super weird.
Let's go.
There's a really specific part of that album where there's a repeating guitar part that plays over and over and over for way too long, and it becomes hypnotic.
Okay.
And a drum solo plays over the top, and then eventually it goes into a heavy repeat.
Is it Arriving Somewhere But Not Here?
I think it's on Anesthetize. I think it's on the heavy.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of Deadwing. That's the wrong album. Give me a sec.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's Anesthetize. Yeah. So there's a part where.
Oh, I fucking love
I'm
that
finding
song.
it.
That's my jam.
No. Sorry, I hate this lyric mode on Apple Music. It's awful. Like looking at words move as you scroll is weird.
Apple Music guy as well. Wow.
What?
You're an Apple Music guy?
We're not judging anyone for the fucking platforms they use, Drew. Come on.
We were at the start. We were talking. Actually, no, we weren't. We came to a crossroads. I'm Windows, and you two guys. I'm the odd one out here. Windows guy.
It's all right, mate. No judgment. It's fine. No,
for different blokes.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be in a room full of men?
Stroking. Yeah, that's your prerogative.
Just
back to Porcupine.
Sorry, that's just me. I'm just fucking around about like you talking about coming back from boxing and being all flustered. Right. Oh my god, this song is so long.
Yeah, it's the fucking best song. 17 minutes. I didn't realize it was 17 minutes, 52 seconds.
It's what? That's longer than Reptile by
Yes.
Periphery.
That's actually how me and Burb kind of first connected, by the way, that song.
Yeah, okay. It's about 6 minutes in, right? And there's like a repeating pattern. Anyway, if you take that idea of the fact that you can repeat a thing and completely throw someone in at the deep end before they realize what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
and still be in the middle of something that's actually very poignant, it's juxtaposition.
Okay.
And a lot of the drum sounds that I almost said his name, that we
Jesus
worked on.
Christ, I have to bleep it out.
I know that we worked on are based on Gavin Harrison. That's like we have a shared love for Gavin Harrison and an appreciation for him because he's a fantastic drummer. But a lot of the things are led from prog records, and there's also like things taken from like Higher is supposed to be like Carnival-y.
Fucking brilliant band as well.
Right. And so there's lots of like just things where I'm like, in that record, for me, I wanted to try and pay homage to the bands that I loved from a technical aspect within that record. But from a world building point of view, I think for Sleep, it was just, I don't really know if we knew.
Okay.
But it happened anyway.
Sure.
And it is just like, it kind of seems to be a world and a space where anything goes. Right. And there isn't really a rule book. There is some kind of like structure. There are some sort of like expected moments and expected things to happen because we know the tropes, but it's still like anything goes. Like they've managed to introduce a few more styles since I finished up with them, and they've been accepted completely. It's not really even been considered.
Yep.
That
was my follow-up. Just to, I guess, from your perspective, how, if they have it all, have the world's changed to where they are from Eden and today's Arcadia?
No, I think there was one song that I was like, in Arcadia, that was like, yeah, I would have really liked to have done this one. Which is the title track, even in Arcadia, is probably the most like me song out of the lot, like that I would have liked, but then I wouldn't really have known what I'd have changed. It's just like, it's one that I would have liked to have done because I think it sounds like something that's one where I go, yeah, I would have enjoyed listening to that even if I didn't do it, and I didn't do it, and I enjoy listening to it. So
yeah,
go figure.
Yes.
And then there was one other moment that I heard. There's a group vocal piano part in, is it the first track? Look to
Windward.
Yeah, there's like a group vocal part piano bit where it sounds like a gospel group, and I was like, yeah, we talked about doing that at one point.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I think I noticed that. When I was reacting, I was like, oh yeah, this choir moment. I'm like, but it's not a choir. I think it's one person doing lots of lines, but that is reminiscent of what would happen in the earlier records. There was a church-like thing.
Yeah, so it was like those sort of things, and I was like, yeah, that was cool. It was just like captions.
Sure. Must be a really cool, unique experience to listen to an album from that perspective of, I guess, not only just, I guess, any producer, you know, anyone in that world would probably listen to a lot of albums like that and think of what they would have done different. But I guess from your perspective, you've worked with the band prior, so you're really honing in on that.
Yeah, but I could also just be making this all up, and it could just all be in my head.
Okay.
So
we'll never know.
I just don't want to overplay any of this. Like, I'm just like here, like going like, yeah. Just,
yeah. But you're wise enough to recognize that like memory is not like locked in either. You know, we color our own experiences, but part of the fun is re-exploring things and chatting through things. So like, thank you so very much for your time today. I know we've used more of your time than we expected to. It's been a fascinating conversation. I could chop for another 2 hours about musical details, but
we can do that. It's fine.
We just feel bad for Burb. He's just technical issues. He's not going to make it back, which is a bit of a shame.
It's so funny. I'll chat with him at some point, but I don't know, later down the line, he wants to do a thing where his camera actually works, then that's fine.
Yeah, if he wants to, if he decides.
He's too cool to be on call.
This is it. No,
That's
it has
brilliant
been
chat,
an absolute joy having you here. Thank you very much for your time. It's been fascinating. And I do know, actually, I mean, my final question would be, I suppose, what are you excited about that you're working on at the moment? You've alluded to, you got an artist who's great at doing kind of multi-part harmonies and writing those things. We've heard bits of our Chronicle, which I think you worked on as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's coming out later this month, actually, an EP.
That's
that
cool.
One.
Honestly, this is so bad. Like, I'm apologizing in advance to anyone and everyone that I work with. I forget what I've done until I see that it comes out, and then I go, "Oh yeah, I did that." Because it can be a year of distance between finishing something and it being released. But yeah, no, there's some really cool stuff. There's a project actually with a band from Ireland that I'm working on. We've not finished that, but that's really cool. They're very proggy, which is fun, but it's also like kind of like Bad Omens-y. There is one that is like The Weeknd, but metal, that I'm working on.
Both of these sound great.
Yeah.
There are two types of metal that I've not been able to do yet that I want to do. So,
Cum metal? No, I'm just kidding.
I would murder to work with them.
With Health? Or
Yeah.
is there a band called Cum
Because
Metal
I
out of
listened.
nowhere?
No, I wish. There's no shadow of lie. We were listening. I introduced them to Health when we were doing Sundowning.
Oh wow!
So I was listening to. Again, need to check the album.
Oh yeah, because they did the
names.
tour together.
They did Wembley Arena.
Yeah. So when that happened, I was like, yeah, sick. I was listening to Volume 4 when we were doing Sundowning, over and over.
Wow.
That and Purity Ring. If you don't know Purity Ring, you'll maybe like it.
I feel
It's
offended
very.
and you were so
I
polite about
enjoy
it.
moments of health. I do. Moments of health.
All of Health is great.
Okay.
It's the same with Code Orange. All of Code Orange is great. It's just right place and time. It's the same with 9 Inch Nails. It's like, it's not always the right place and time.
Makes sense.
So two types of metal that I've always wanted to do. One is K-pop crossover to metal.
Wow. I've K-pop's
Right.
brilliant.
So like, do you know KDA? Have you heard of KDA?
No.
Okay, so they are a fictional K-pop band made within the world of League of Legends.
Sure.
Right.
Of course.
If you've not heard, they have some insane pop singers voice these artists for their. If you've not listened to KDA, go listen to it. You'll become obsessed, because all you have to do is just imagine that and then just go, that as a metal band. Oh, okay, that's a very George thing to do. The next one is to figure out a way of doing. Do either of you listen to EDM?
On occasion.
My childhood was massively EDM, yes.
So, Noisia, Imanu.
Where?
Oh, Noisia. Fucking
Noisia.
Foreign Beggars did some stuff with Noisia.
Yeah. So I want to find a way of crossing over EDM to metal, because that would also be a really fun time too. So those are the things that over time.
Brilliant.
I'd like to do.
Well, I'll be tuning into that.
I look forward to those. Yeah, be great. Well, listen, thank you very, very much again for your time and your insights about the world of production and kind of music creation and that sort of sphere. It's been fascinating, utterly fascinating. Really appreciate it.
It's all right, mate. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Anytime.
Been good fun.
Absolutely. Cheers,
thanks. Right. I'll make sure to put some links in the description to whatever your platforms would be, to make sure people can find your bits and pieces so they can see and hear those metal crossovers you got lined up in store in future. He's like, if it happens, who knows?
Yeah.
Might happen.
K-pop metal's happening. Let's go.
Yes. Well, thank you for listening to this. If you did enjoy this, do feel free to subscribe to this podcast and check out our Patreon as well. There's some cool stuff over there. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode very soon.